Hey, it's Dell Jackson. We got a special LO Hoops Zoom interview tonight with Matt Herbener, goes by Coach Herbie, and we got a phone caller in that's gonna have a little phone when he talks, which would be our top reporter here and Andy Herr. So how you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Happy to talk some hoops.
Good, good, good. And our caller, Andy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Can I have a hot take? Is this going to be like a call-in show or
Well,
what?
whatever you want to do, man. That's the way we are. We aim to please here at LO Hoops. It's been a while, so we're gonna get after it here tonight a little bit. Okay.
Start a
Yeah,
new
no,
trend. I
no,
like it.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited about this one. Herbie's a good doobie, so I'm
I
excited for
know,
it.
I know. We're all good. I'll start it off, and then I'll flip it over to you, then Andy. So, Coach Herbie, we know a little bit about you, but not all our fans know about you. So give us your background, like your coaching background, where you've been, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I graduated from Ephrata in 2013. I got my coaching career started with Coach Fisher when he started out at Ephrata. I was still in college. I was driving back, helping him out for his 2 years at Ephrata. And then when he decided to go back to Mannheim Central, I decided to go with him. And then at Mannheim, I was coaching anywhere from eighth grade to varsity assistant. I was with him for well, yeah, 7 years, which is a long time. Um, and then I also coached baseball when I was there too. I was the JV baseball coach. We had success basketball and baseball there. And then the previous 2 years, the head coach at Twin Valley. So we were moving in the right direction there. And then this job opened up here at Ephrata. I'm a teacher in the district, and then being a graduate, it was just a perfect time to come back and take that opportunity. So. That's kind of how I ended up here, and super excited to be at Ephrata.
Excellent. It's always interesting to go back to your roots, and it sounds like
Yeah,
you never left your roots. So that's probably
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
good too. You know what I mean? You know the culture, you know the kids, you know the administration. So you got a leg up on a new job. So that's a good thing. I'll turn it over to you, Andy.
Yeah, Herbie, I know the term, it's a cliche, but the term dream job gets thrown around an awful lot, so much so that it's kind of overused. But I mean, fair or not that this was sort of a dream job of sorts, because I followed you guys at Twin Valley the last couple of years, and it always seemed like you sort of had a good rapport with the Ephrata guys, Coach Gaffey and his guys who were there. Um, I know you played him at Nook quite a few times. You played him for real for real during the winter. I mean, with everything being said, you were already sort of close to the program while you were, afar, and then you also have those Ephrata roots. So fair to say this was sort of a dream job type of opportunity when it became available to you.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started coaching, it was an exciting time to be able to help Coach Fish out at Ephrata and be able to start my coaching career there just as a volunteer. And it always was something from the beginning that it was always like, hey, it would be really cool to be a head coach here at Ephrata, being able to play at Ephrata and then start my coaching career there. Always something that was in the back of my mind. With that being said, I was perfectly, happy at Twin Valley. Like I said, we had things moving there in the right direction. I felt really good about where we were going, but and I had no, uh, inclination that this job was going to open. But when it did, it was something that I couldn't pass up, regardless of how things were going at Twin Valley. Teaching in the district and just it feels like home. Growing up in the community and like Dale said, never really leaving the community. Um, it is a dream job to be able to come back here.
What were some of the things that when you were scouting them or just seeing them, whether it be in June or January or whenever you actually played Ephrata, what were some of the things that you saw that they were doing that you're like, yeah, I like that, and I hope, if I were to ever get the opportunity, hypothetically, to come coach here, maybe I'd like to build upon that. Like, what were some of the things that stuck out to you, I guess, when you were looking at Ephrata on tape or in person that stuck out and you really liked when you were coaching against them, and now that you're in their camp?
They play really hard. They are tough kids. And that's something that was evident immediately when we started open gyms. We knew going into that, playing them in the season, that they were a tough team in terms of their physicality and their defense. I mean, I think they were top two in terms of point per game defensively last year. So we knew that their toughness was a factor in how they play. And that's always something that I think as a coach, every coach wants to have tough kids and have kids play physical. And that's something that Ephrata does. The other thing, I mean, Cooper and Trusky, he's top shooter, if not the top shooter, one of the top three shooters in the league. That's something, every coach would love to have a guy who can shoot like that. But then you have other pieces like Marcus Harden, watching him on film. He was a guy watching him early on. I'm like, this guy is a stud. And he's a guy that we're going to lean heavily on moving forward. But I think it was mainly that defense and the physicality and the toughness that they bring. It was evident on tape. And from the first open gym we had, these guys are diving on the floor in April. So in open gyms, and that's just something, it was exciting and it got me pumped getting in there right away to see that. So.
One other thing, did you put in for the job before Coach Gaffey got it? Were you sort of in that run of applicants, a few years before?
That is correct. Yeah. So I had applied I guess that would have been 4 years ago. Yeah, I had applied and I had a second round interview. And then ended up not getting it. But I always tell people, at the time, it was really tough not to get that job because it's similar to this scenario, when the job opened, my phone blows up, hey, you're gonna apply for this. This is a great job for you. And at the time it felt like, hey, this is gonna be a great opportunity for me to get my first head coaching job. And it didn't happen. And it took a little bit of time to kind of, realize, hey, this isn't the worst thing in the world. I'm so much more prepared coming back now than what I was back then. And that's something at the time you don't really think about. Like I'm still young, obviously, but back then I was even younger and I'm just like, man, this is terrible. Like how can this happen? But now I feel so much more prepared to lead the program, especially being a big 6A school. I mean, it's a big time program here. So I feel, the 2 years at Twin Valley and then the time with Coach Fisher, those extra couple years, it really prepared me for this opportunity.
That's what I was driving at, because I would assume now, I mean, hindsight's always 2020, but I would guess that you're, like you said, much more prepared now that you have head coaching experience. And I would assume that the runway that Coach Gaffey and his staff basically gave you guys to take off from the program's probably in a little bit better place than it was before. So I was just curious to get your sort of sense on that and kind of where it came out, where you did apply before and now you were able to get it, how you were much more prepared, and you just answered that. So yeah, I was just curious about that. So yeah.
This is unique. I mean, this team's ready to, I mean, we have high expectations. I know those guys have high expectations, but the expectations are way different now than what they were if I would have got the job 4 years ago. So we're just trying to keep things going. We'll change some things, but a lot of the things that they're doing, it's good. We're just going to build off of it and make the adjustments we need to.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So I'm hearing a young coach that cut his teeth with the timeout king, who learned it from other timeout kings. and then went to Twin Valley. And now that you've been a head coach, you can tell me the difference between being in that stand-up position as opposed to the sit-down. It used to be the guy on the right, but that's old school. It's not that way anymore. It's like the guy that stands and the guy that sits. And how did you how'd you morph into that? How did that transition from being an assistant to a head coach? And obviously people that never been there, Herbie, don't understand that there's a difference, and there's a big difference, and it's just not all about X and O's all the time. So go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the one benefit that I had that I think really helped me was Charlie always in the summer would give opportunities for myself, and then Mike Smith, who's the Mannheim Central girls coach now, who was the assistant at the time. He would always give us opportunities to coach in the summer. Um, and that just it was so valuable because being able to coach a varsity team, even though it's just a summer league setting, it really helped kind of slow my mind down. I remember my first time doing it, I think we were at Red Lion in their summer league, and I was like, again, I'm a young guy. I'm like, okay, this is exciting. I'm pumped for this. And I remember my mind was just going a million miles an hour. Um, but having those experiences in the summer and him, Charlie, giving us those opportunities really helped to kind of prepare me, at least in the in-game sense. It's nothing like drawing up a play in practice is totally different than drawing up a play in a summer league game in a close game. So things like that with X's and O's really helped. I think the biggest thing for me, though, the adjustment was, when you're that assistant coach, every player loves you, right? You're the guy there that, you know, when the head coach is yelling and freaking out on them, they come to you, and then you can calm them down. And Charlie's losing his mind. I can say, hey, it's okay, don't worry about it. So kids love the assistant coach. Um, I think the adjustment to being the quote unquote bad guy, um, or the guy who has to, be the strict one, it was an adjustment, especially being a young person going into a school that had no idea who I was, in Berks County. I mean, I didn't know anybody going to Twin Valley. So these kids, it was kind of, you had to prove myself to them that one, I knew what I was doing, but two, that I could also relate with them. So the first year there was a lot of bumps in the road, and it was not easy. The good thing was, though, that second year, just my mind slowed down so much, and I just got comfortable, being in that role of being strict, but at the same time relating to these guys and making sure that they understand, hey, I'm doing what I think is best for the team, and I have their best interests in mind. I'm not doing anything for me. So, but for me, that was the biggest adjustment, making that switch.
That's good stuff. That's really good stuff. I like it. Andy, you got anything else?
No, you can take another one.
Okay. Let's talk. I'm always interested in programs, and obviously you're a teacher, so you kind of know, a rec. You guys have a nice rec program over there, and your feeder system, and what you have coming up. So it's early, but what is your evaluation of the program, and then what type of things, tweaks we'll call them, are you looking to change in the future?
Yeah, so I was somewhat familiar with the seventh, eighth, and ninth grade teams because Twin Valley and Ephrata actually played. There's definitely talent there. Um, Again, it's a big school district. Being an elementary school, we have like almost 500 kids in my elementary school that I'm at. So there's a lot of kids and a lot of interest in basketball. Um, the one thing that I think changed in the past couple of years was, Coach Gaffey had taken the youth program out of the rec system and then kind of under the umbrella of the high school team. That's something that myself and the other coaches are going to look at. We would really love to have a good relationship with the rec center, because I think there's benefits. I mean, the rec is a big part of the community and has been for a while. So we kind of want to build that relationship with them. I don't know if we'll give the youth program that fifth and sixth grade travel team back to them, or we'll keep it, but we want to form a relationship with them so that we're working together to kind of reach the most amount of kids possible. The other thing, when I was at Twin Valley, they have a youth basketball association that involves boys and girls, and they run their own thing with the help of the high school coaches for the boys and the girls. And that's actually something that Coach Cirillo, the girls coach at Ephrata, we've already talked about. That's something that we would love to try and do at Ephrata. We're both planning on being here for the long haul, and being able to establish a youth basketball association in Ephrata is something that we think would be beneficial for both programs. So that's something that we're going to look to try and do in the future. It just takes the right people to help lead that and get that going.
How about your staff? Like, are you set on staff? Did you have any issues with getting staff? It's like, mention some names here. Throw some
Yeah,
love.
so Nate Zimmerman, he was with Coach Gaffey the whole time. He was 2 years younger than me. We played together. He is staying on. He'll be my varsity assistant. Jared Fritz, another Ephrata grad. He was my JV coach at Twin Valley. He's also going to come with me. He's going to be the JV coach for us. And then at the junior high level, Chuck Oling was somebody. He's a middle school teacher in the district. He used to coach the eighth grade team for a long time. He's going to be our seventh grade coach. He's coming back. And then Brady Snyder is our eighth grade coach, another former player. Ephrata grad. He was the eighth grade coach last year. He's going to stay on. The only thing we're trying to find is a ninth grade coach. That's something we're still looking for the right fit there. And then at the high school staff, Larson Kopp, his younger brother Landry, is on the team. He's going to help out with the high school team. He's another Ephrata grad. Actually coached him when I was with Charlie those first 2 years at Ephrata, and then we have another volunteer, Jeff Pilar, who was my eighth grade coach at Twin Valley. So it's a mix of Ephrata guys, and then also guys that were with me at Twin Valley who I feel will be good fits here at Ephrata.
I always tease the Cacalico guys. I always tease them. I said, hey, you guys are like bleeding blue. So it sounds like your staff is bleeding purple over there. You know what I mean?
It is, all the guys we have, we feel have been positive impacts in the program at some point. But no, it's kind of cool to have a staff with a lot of alumni, and with Larson, it's kind of, a full circle moment. I go from coaching him to now him being on staff with me. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Let's let's talk about section 2 a little bit. Maybe Andy, you can steal this thunder. So we know that effort is 6A, and it's a hard nut to crack, to get in there. I mean, you probably have to have 15 wins. The way it looked last year, it was probably 15 would have gotten in. I think Penn Manor just snuck in, and they had 15 or 16. So let's talk about section 2 a little bit and District 3.
Yeah. Section 2 is going to be an absolute dogfight in and out every night. Losing Mannheim going down in going down to 3 helps, but then you replace them with Cacalico, and it's like, well, that doesn't help our chances anymore. Cacalico, Spot, Warwick, they're going to be really good next year. And then you throw in CV, who's going to be really young. Solanco brings back guys. They have Bailey back, who's an absolute stud. And then you have E-Town with Lee, and he does a great job coaching. So there's not really many games out there where you feel, oh, hey, this is going to be an easy win or a guaranteed win. It's going to be, a dogfight in and out each night in section play. I think there's 4 teams that could win the section, but then that that fourth place team, those third and fourth place teams are gonna be really good teams who miss out on leagues. So I think it's gonna be a section race that goes to the very end. I don't think you're gonna have somebody just flat out run away with it. In terms of District 3 and getting into districts, you're right. It's an uphill battle. I think it was 2 years ago, Ephrata, they lost to E-Town on the last game of the season. I think that would have gotten them to 14 wins, which I think would have got them in. We know that the number is somewhere 14 to 15 that we think we could get us in. But again, like you said, Penn Manor with 15 wins, barely getting in. We know that it's not a guarantee. So we feel pretty good with our non-league schedule, with who we're playing, but we're gonna have to win games in section to give us a chance. So
Yeah, it's just interesting the breakdown. I would really like to see District 3 go back to 16 teams. To me it seems fair.
I would love that too.
It's like you got some buys, which I can get that, but when you have teams that are playing in good leagues, that they should have a chance to at least have a chance to play against the big boys, even if they sneak in.
Yeah.
When I was coaching, I always looked at that. That was the goal every year, is to get in there, and then once you get in there, it's like it's not happy to get in there. We got to compete.
Yeah, sure.
It's a different level when you're playing bigger school. When you're a 6A school and you're just sneaking in at 12, you're going to play a big boy right away. So, I mean, who's to say that you won't be a 2 or a 3? It's like you never know. You never
Hey,
know.
sky's the limit.
That's right. That's right. Andy, still there, buddy?
I'm still here.
All right.
I'm still here.
Any more questions for Coach Herbie?
Yeah, I was actually going to ducktail sort of in behind your guys' last Q&A and back and forth there. I know one of the things I really complimented Coach Gaffey on when he was making his schedule is, like, first of all, I still think it's wild that Effort is a 6A school. I sort of refuse to believe that. But I mean, Herbie, you're in the district. If you're saying you guys are that big, then you are that big. To me, it seems wild. But I don't know if you were cognizant of this, but I'm looking at our reclassification numbers from PIAA, and you got a nice little help. You got some big help from Section 2, like E-Town bumped up to 6, DV's 6, Warwick's is 6. So unlike years previous where Ephrata was kind of that fish out of water, the 6A amongst a bunch of other 5s, I don't know, like, were you cognizant that your brethren now are sort of in your weight class? And does that do anything, like you said, scheduling for non-con to where maybe you don't have to go hunting for quote unquote like big 6A type thing? Like what goes into that? Or were you even, I guess, aware of that with, how big Section 2 really is now with a bunch of 6As in it?
No, that's something that I was aware of immediately. And it helps a lot because those are 2 extra game, or well, with E-Town and Warwick, that's 4. And then you add in CV, there's 6 games in section that get you those 6A schools. With this schedule, with the non-league, I didn't have a ton of say in it. It was pretty much set. But we do have a good balance. We have Hempfield in non-league. That'll give us another 6A game. So in this cycle, I didn't have a lot of say in what we were doing with the non-league. But you're right. When you get to play 6A schools in section, it gives you a little bit more freedom not to feel the pressure to, hey, we got to schedule a bunch of 6A schools non-league or even 5A schools. We do have some smaller schools on the schedule. We're back in the Northern Lebanon Holiday Tournament, so we'll play 2 smaller schools there. I think we open up with Northern Lebanon and then Big Oroville and I forget the 4th team, but so that'll be 2 games against smaller schools. But then we have like Daniel Boone, again, they're 5A. Kennerdale we have, and they actually bumped up from 4A to 5A. So little things like that really helped us out. So Donegal is on the schedule, 5A. So we have a good mix. But you're right, it helps a lot to have those other schools bumping up.
Do you like, I don't know, like, does it feel to you like Ephrata is a 6A type school? I mean, you are what you are, but like, does it to you as like an insider, does it feel like a 6A type school to you?
I would say no. However, if you go around the community, it's growing. People are moving into the community. There's a lot of developments going up, so it doesn't it's becoming less surprising. Um, but I teach in the same building as Coach Shelley, the baseball coach, and Coach Miller, the football coach. I actually teach his daughter. So in talking with them, it's an adjustment, that everybody's kind of had to make with being a bigger classification as of recent. So um, no, it doesn't, but it's becoming less surprising the more you're kind of in the community. And I don't envision it changing. I don't envision us going back down to 5A. I think, yeah, I agree, Del. I think we're going to continue to grow. And it's something that we're going to have to adjust to, and make sure that we adapt.
Other thing for me, I know we're looking forward to like future schedules and everything like that, but I did actually want to go back. Twin Valley is a school that's close, but I don't think our primary audience knows a whole heck of a lot about them and sort of what you were building. I saw you guys a few times last year. You beat Solanco in overtime to start. Dell, you and I were over there when they played at Penn Manor, and I, you were right. It felt to me like you guys were getting ready to pop there, like something special was about to start. So just again, for those that may not be familiar with what you were building at Twin Valley, just sort of speak to the guys who were coming back and sort of what you were instilling. To which, again, like you said, a dream job, but hard to leave when you're building something that looks like it is sort of ready to explode.
Yeah, so Twin Valley historically is not known as being a basketball school. Their girls' sports at Twin Valley are phenomenal. Their girls lacrosse team and field hockey team and softball team and girls basketball team, they're constant playoff contenders, and not just in leagues. We're talking districts and states. The basketball program, it's been like 20 years since they won a district game. They've never won a division. I think they've made Berks County playoffs one time, but they've never won a playoff game. So going into that job, I knew it was going to have to be a breakdown and restart to build up, the way we wanted it to be. That first year was rough. They were coming off of, I think they had 10 wins the previous year, but they lost three key guys, three starters, and then one bench guy that was crucial in them. So we had some guys coming back, but from a coaching standpoint, I knew it was going to be tough. And I knew it was going to be, hey, we might have to take a step backwards before we go forward. We won 4 games my first year. And I think, some people question, like, hey, are we moving in the right direction? But then we had a real good summer. We had a really big junior class last year. We had one senior on the team. We started a sophomore and 4 juniors last year. And then we had a freshman, Lucas Myers. His brother, Evan Myers, is the QB, and he was a starter for us on the basketball team. He's a freshman. He had a shoulder injury in the district championship game, or district semi, whatever it was, against Manheim Central. He didn't play the whole season. He would have been in the rotation if not competing for a starting spot as a freshman. We won, a couple more games last year, but it was the sense in the program that we were moving in the right direction. We were starting to do things the way that I knew we needed to do them to be successful. We finished the season really strong. We beat Conrad Weiser at Conrad Weiser. We lost to Governor Mifflin in overtime, and they were on a great stretch to end the season. We played Muhlenberg to a single-digit game into the fourth quarter, so we felt really good, and that's why we had everybody coming back. And then you add in Lucas Myers, we felt really good about kind of changing that narrative at Twin Valley that, boys basketball isn't successful. So they have some good talent in the youth levels. I think given the right coach, I think that they can turn things around. I mean, it's a similar situation with Ephrata. You know, we have potentially 10, 11 seniors at Ephrata. They have 9 to 10 seniors at Twin Valley. So, again, we felt really good. And like Dell said, it was tough to leave. You put in 2 years of forming relationships with those guys, and it was not easy to leave them. But I wish those guys nothing but the best.
Let me follow
Yeah,
up,
and
Andy. Let me follow up with something while I'm thinking about it, and then I'll come back to you. I always think as a coach, because that's my background, but I'm wondering, without any negativity or anything like that, is there differences between Berks and the LL? I mean, organization, type of play, referees. I mean, did you see? I mean, you've been part of both now, so you have a
Yeah,
perspective that nobody else has right now.
I think the one thing that it's tough in Berks County is ninth grade basketball is not a big thing. There are very few Berks County basketball programs that have a ninth grade team. That was something that I did not know going into getting the job there. Um, Again, Twin Valley's 5A, so you don't have a ninth grade team. That's a lot of guys that aren't playing basketball that could play basketball. And that was something I really wanted to push for, was to get a ninth grade team. We got close. Unfortunately, it didn't end up happening. I think part of the reason being is they were worried about scheduling and finding teams to play. But that's a big difference, because then our JV team, we're deciding, hey, we have a junior who can't play varsity yet. Do we keep that junior who has to be on JV? Or do we keep a freshman who, hey, they might really not be ready for JV, but we see them as potential as 10th or 11th graders? So that was a huge adjustment for me in that sense, in terms of the program sense, because in the LL, I would say, I don't want to say the majority, but I think a lot of teams have a ninth grade team, and play a decent, ninth grade schedule.
I'll hook in there. All ALL, all.
There you go. So that was tough for me.
So
In terms of
you're cutting ninth graders in. Like ninth graders have to be on the JV team. They can't
Correct.
play in the junior high team because they're not a ninth grade team. So all your ninth graders from eighth grade are trying out for the JV team. And the kids that you kept the year before as ninth graders are now 10th graders, and they're trying out for a varsity spot or a JV spot, correct?
Correct. So it's tough. Again, you got to make that decision. Do you keep a junior who's kind of in between, or do you keep a freshman who's not totally ready yet, but you see potential in? It it it, it wasn't easy. We had a really young JV team. Like, we played with, I think we had 6 or 7 freshmen. And some of those freshmen, they weren't ready. But again, they were kids that were saying, hey, well, if we cut this kid, are we going to lose him?
They're gone.
And that's something, we weren't,
Yeah.
as a coaching staff, we didn't want to risk that. So that led to us keeping more freshmen. It led to some tough JV games. I mean, they went through some serious growing pains in the beginning, because they're going from playing against eighth graders to playing against juniors potentially.
It also makes cutting quicker, if that makes
Yes.
sense. So, the kids that have played seventh grade, play eighth grade, they haven't had to go through, they're coming up as a class. And now all of a sudden they're competing in ninth and 10th, where you usually don't see that until the varsity level, where you have juniors and you have seniors and maybe a sophomore if he's good enough. But, that's when you start blending classes, usually at the high school varsity level.
Well, and even in their junior high programs in Berks County, so they don't have a 7th and 8th grade team. They have a
Junior
junior high, they have a junior high JV and a junior high varsity. So you could have an 8th grader playing on the junior high JV. So, in the LL, it's pretty much you have a 7th grade team, an 8th grade team, a 9th grade team. You can play up, but you can't play down. In Berks County, you could be an 8th grader playing on the equivalent of an LL 7th grade team. So the structure in that sense was different. You know, the junior high with the junior high JV varsity wasn't. I was fine with it. It was just a little different than what I was used to. But the 9th grade thing was the biggest adjustment in that sense. But in terms of play, the toughest thing is you have those crossover games when you're in Division Two.
Yeah.
We're crossing over
And
with
Wilson and Reading. Yeah. Yeah.
Muhlenberg, Governor Mifflin. My first year, having Reading come to Twin Valley, it was quite the experience. That's something that in the LL, with no crossovers anymore, it makes it really tough on your as a Division two team to have to cross over with those Division 1 teams. Um, playing Reading, and that's 4 games that you're going into that you're like, we're gonna really have to play a perfect game to have a chance. And you have no option in scheduling. So, and Berks is something they don't like change. And that's something, the LL will have section realignments. Back when I started with Charlie, they had 3 sections at that time. So Berks County, though, has really stayed pretty consistent with their divisions and the crossover. So that was the biggest adjustment, is having to play those crossovers. And my first year, we didn't have a chance against Reading or Wilson. Last year we felt better against some of those teams, and moving forward, if I would have been there, we felt a lot better about having to play those crossovers. Not saying, hey, we thought this was going to be a definite win by any sense, but we weren't getting to the point of thinking, hey, we could compete with these guys and at least give ourselves a chance. But style of play, though, LL has really good teams. Berks has really good teams.
Sure.
It would be fun to have the top 8 play the top 8 in each league. That would,
Like it. Oh, I like that a lot. I mean, I know Andy and I have talked. Berks has been really good the last couple of years in the district level, and it's like, yeah, good stuff. Andy,
Yeah.
anything else?
No, you're right. I mean, Berks has pretty much served us our lunch on a silver platter the last couple of years, and rightly so. I mean, they've been really, really good. First of all, that's wild. I did not know that at all, about like the 9th grade and junior high thing. That's wild to me.
Only
I wouldn't have
only
thought that either.
some of the big schools, Wilson, some of those big schools will have a 9th grade team, but you get out of Division 1, not many people have a 9th grade team, if any, to my knowledge.
That's wild to me, because like you said, TV is still a 5A, so it's not the biggest school in the world, but it ain't small, like that's wild. But no, anyway, what I was going to interject with, it was just a comment. It wasn't a question before Dell asked his question, which was a really good one, was that, again, for our audience who may not be totally familiar with Twin Valley basketball all that much, I think they were poised for success whether Herbie was there or not. Obviously now he's at Ephrata. So if you see Twin Valley start to maybe rack up some wins here moving forward, yes, players play, but I think a lot of that was because of what, Herbie was putting into them, because I've seen them, a couple times last year and the year before, and things were moving in the right direction. And I can say that as an outsider. So yeah, I mean, he's bringing some good stuff to Ephrata, and I hope they're ready. So
appreciate that.
Excellent. Hey, good luck, Coach. Thank you. We'll put this up on the website, and I know you're busy this summer, and that's the way it is.
The way we like it.
All right, man. All right. See you, Andy.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right.